if I could do that analysis and rip open my gut to really dig inside of myself, I could do anything. And I think that has been my North Star.
Are you ready to take the next best step toward creating a life by design?
Do you feel like there is something more for you, but you're not sure how to get to it?
Welcome to the Momentum Podcast. I'm Molly, your health and mindset coach.
And I'm Lena, your money manifestation coach.
We're here to help women like you, whether you're building a business, scaling a side hustle, or crushing it in your career, take actionable steps towards the life you've always envisioned.
If you're ready to stop playing small and step confidently into the life you're meant to live,
join us on this journey of growth, alignment, and unstoppable momentum. Let's take the next best step together. Hello, everyone. Today's guest is someone who is rewriting the rules about what's possible and doing it with style, strength, and some serious wisdom. Terry Yoffe is a 3-time certified executive business and communications coach, a top-ranked podcaster, and a bold voice in coaching and leadership. She has led a wildly successful career growing a multi-million-dollar media territory. She reinvented herself at 60, and now at 82, she's not slowing down. She's continuing to bust through societal norms and show us what it all looks like to lead with confidence, courage, and purpose. We are so honored to have her with us today. Terry, welcome to the Momentum Podcast.
That's quite a build-up. I don't know where I go from there.
Well,
Molly, I adore you. We know each other. It's so wonderful to see you. Lena, your new friend, and I love your blue glasses. And I know today's going to be great.
Yes. Well, I want to dive right in because you've got a history of bucking societal norms. And so we want to just dive in. So you've shared with us before that growing up, you saw yourself as the girl who wasn't supposed to make it. That really stuck with me. So it's a powerful contrast to the Terry that I know. So I want to ask you, what was one of those stories or beliefs that you carried about yourself from your childhood back then? And when did you start to feel the shift, like you were capable of doing something more?
I grew up in a family. My parents were a bit older than the norm of parents. So talk about norm. Yeah. My father worked 2 jobs. My mother was the breadwinner and so neither were around very much. And I had to kind of fend for myself. And I did. And I had to figure life out by myself.
Yeah.
I somehow felt unworthy. I stuttered. I felt really insecure. I never, ever felt like I fit in. I was always the kid that didn't have much to say, was with people, and I was almost invisible. And that carried with me. And when I moved into the city, I lived in Queens. I grew up in Queens. I knew something was off. I just knew it in my gut about me. I just didn't flow with the rest of the world. And I started analysis 3 times a week for 7 years. So you can imagine.
How old were you when you started?
I was in my maybe late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
And so I spent many years digging deep, chipping away at all of my blocks, all of my masks. And it was very painful. and very challenging because most people today wouldn't even consider that route. And I understand that. I might not either today, but back then I did. And I started understanding my childhood, me, what I was about. And, you know, you talk about societal norms. Most people back then got married in their 20s, had 2.5 kids, you know, mother stayed home, fathers worked, and at 60 something, they retired, or 65. So I never followed any of those norms. My real career started at 40 when I went into sales, and I never had sales experience. But somebody I knew said, well, you know, the fashion world. I said, but I don't know sales. She said, you'll figure it out. And I could have said no, and we wouldn't have this conversation. I said yes, which I did a lot of, not realizing. And I was highly successful. People loved doing business with me. And then I went on to Condé Nast and spent 11 years there being highly successful. And, you know, at 60, which is never a time when people do anything, I was in my own business, and it was great until it wasn't, until the landscape changed and you had to find something else. I wasn't going to retire. So in a lot of digging, I found coaching at 60.
Terry, let me ask you a question before we dive into coaching, which is the topic that is near and dear to our hearts. I wanted to just kind of reverse a little back to your corporate career. Partially because I come from corporate. I was in big C corporate for 25 years. And it definitely comes with certain perks, literally and figuratively speaking. And also, I know how it is to be the only woman in the room. Even though I was in corporate in like late 90s and early 2000s, there was still almost like an unspoken, like, oh, lunch was brought up. Are you going to help serve it? That kind of stuff. So I'm just curious because you were extremely successful in the corporate world and probably in one of the most male dominated areas, which was sale. So what was experience like for you? And also, what mindset did you actually lean into to not just survive, but actually make a lot of money?
Yeah. And that was I was at Women's Wear Daily, where there were women and men, and I had a territory, so nobody poached it. Right? I had my own territory. When I went to Condé Nast, I was at the New Yorker and Bon Appetit. And at the New Yorker, sometimes you share territories, right, with another salesperson. And yet there were women. There were women salespeople, but the men, a few tried to infringe, shall we say, on my territory or my pieces of business. And they learned pretty quickly that that wasn't a thing I was going to tolerate. I wasn't willing to do that if it wasn't something that they had a part of. But if they wanted to come in and reach in and take it or share it, they came up against the wrong person, shall we say. But I would say that at both the New Yorker and Bon Appetit, there were more women salespeople than men. And actually, I think the women did a lot better than the men did. Why
do you think women at times do that? And the reason I ask, I'm currently working with a client who is starting her own coaching agency, and she specifically wants to focus on male financial advisors to help them sell and coach female clients. And I was like, that is such an interesting niche. And she's like, because have you ever sat down with a male financial advisor? Like, if you want to revisit your childhood, do that. They don't know how to speak to women, even if the woman across the table has several $1,000,000 to invest.
Right.
So why do you think women tend to do better in sales once they allow themselves?
I think women have more capability to put on the charm, if you will, use our female qualities that men can't do. Now, I was highly respected because I didn't lie to my clients, which a lot of salespeople did. What I promised them, I delivered on. My allegiance was to my clients, not so much, even yes, to my company, but I was very protective of my clients. When I went in to meet them, they wanted to start with a 2-inch ad. I didn't say, oh, go to a page. I didn't try to be greedy. I took what they wanted and built up with them. I was a consultative salesperson, had my arm around them and say, okay, let's work together. And I was very, very successful at what I did because they trusted me. I had integrity. And back then, that was really important.
So it sounds like you had coaching qualities before you actually stepped into coaching?
Right. You're right. I did. I was always a giver, even young, which kids can be really cruel.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a very kind, sensitive person. Kids are not like that. So I got hurt a lot. And I think I developed something, maybe in the fact that I had to find my own way in life, that I just developed that sense. And when even I had my first sales job and I did so well, in a lot of cases, salespeople, if you have a good product, they'll buy you, right? They buy you. And I sold myself and my magazine second. If I went in with a crappy magazine that nobody was going to buy from, it didn't matter how nice I was.
That's right. That's right. It's almost like if you look back on that, Terry, your childhood wounds, the trauma that you went through as a child when you were trying to you basically figured it out on your own, actually paved the way for your success in business. Now, like that hindsight's always 2020. When you were in that space, did you realize that fortitude and the resilience that you built through your 20s and into your 30s as you were going through analysis 3 times a week, that actually was the foundation for everything that was supposed to come after?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think for me, it was always proving myself. Always proving myself.
Okay.
Back when I was at Condé Nast, I did really well. And for me, a value was how much money I made.
Oh, I think a lot of us have lived in that space where the worth was tied to the paycheck or the title or the accolades or the external validation. Yeah.
Right. And that was important to me. And I did phenomenally well, really. I even surprised myself at that. And just segueing, my husband for a long time suggested I leave and go into my own business as a hired gun salesperson. And I didn't. Who was going to leave the benefits, the money, everything else, the camaraderie.
Yeah.
However, I got to a point where it was time for me to play in my own sandbox. And this is where I think everything came into play. And all of a sudden, people came to me and said, "Oh, we'd love to hire you as a part-time." And it's like I left with a couple of things under my belt. But as I say, I left. I got in my rowboat and I left that shore. And I kept looking back and saying, did I make a mistake? And I kept reaching until I couldn't reach anymore because I was in the middle of wherever I was. And I just went to the next shore. And I think, even though I didn't think about it, somewhere in me, all those years catapulted me to that next shore and starting my own rep company, which I did. So I started a rep company and did phenomenally well because everyone knew me. Yeah. And when that landscape changed, then I had to figure out where was I going. Right. And I wanted to be a therapist. But that was the first thing, because of all my therapy. I loved the human mind. Of course, it was my own. But
yes.
But everyone's is the same. That piece of machinery is exactly the same for everybody. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out. And so talking to people and exploring, I found coaching and said, okay, so here I was, somebody that had been at the top, now was in the basement in a way, because I had to start all over again at 60. And people said, are you crazy? What are you doing? And not only did I get a certificate, I went on to do 6 months of certification, which was like, really? Am I going to do this? Right. It was 6 months. And then, of course, it was a written and an oral exam. Yeah. So here I was at 61, 62, taking an oral and written exam, which I passed.
Amazing. When you look back at that time, because you built this amazing career, then went out on your own using the connections that you had established in your previous roles, and then decided, okay, I'm gonna get in the boat and I'm gonna head towards a different shore. When you look back at that time, when you were the coaching shore, you were pulling up to that shore, and you're like, okay, I'm going to make a go of this. I'm going to do the certification. When you look back at that season, when you were establishing your coaching business, what would you tell yourself back then? Like today, seeing what you've done in the last 20 plus years with coaching, what would you tell that 61-year-old self again about that season in life? I would love to know that, because I'm in that season. I'm still in corporate. I have my coaching business. I'm straddling both right now. And starting something and building something new. I mean, that's scary, So I really would love your insight.
I think one thing was I was already married. So I had a landing.
Sure.
If that didn't happen, but it didn't matter to me. I took the courses. I joined the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, the New York chapter. And I slowly built this first website, and several people from my business world I coached. They were willing to take me on. And it was very slow. How do you segue from the world of business and advertising sales to a different world and a different. So coaching, I kind of had to find my way also. You know, fast forward, I probably coach differently today than I did then. And I got clients, people referred me. You know, the universe was there to support me. It was the right move. My belief is if I could go through a breakup of getting married, which I didn't many years before that, which devastated me, to my 7 years of analysis. And I always said, if I could do that analysis and rip open my gut to really dig inside of myself, I could do anything. And I think that has been my North Star for this many years, that anyone that can go through that and can wrench up and regurgitate their life and really look at it, you know, not only look at it, but have it smack them in the face, they can do anything. And that's my philosophy today.
Love that.
I'm sitting here listening and thinking to myself, you know what? Probably the 7-year self-analysis was the toughest and most intense certification for becoming a coach that one can ever go through.
Thank you. That's right. You're right.
Right? Like, I have worked with a lot of coaches. I have studied with a lot of coaches. You're probably one of the most qualified people to be out there. But here's the fascinating part. So you've done so much. You've done mentoring, leading, coaching, podcasting, and now you're stepping into the world of speaking. So Terry, what is it about the stage that's calling for you right now? Like, what drives you to keep showing up, trying new things, and really sharing your voice so boldly? And I say that, no pun intended. Going from a stuttering shy girl to being in the stage light.
I used to be on the stage when I used to do fashion shows. I was always in the public eye, always. And when I belonged to ICF, I also became the president of the chapter. I would get up and talk when I was at an organization called She Runs It. I co-founded and did the mentoring program. I chaired it. So I'd get up and I would talk a lot. That stopped. And I always, interestingly, have this dream or thought of somebody getting up on a stage and singing. Well, I don't sing. It's always been there. And I finally realized a voice is a voice, no matter what comes out and how it comes out. And I've always, always seen myself as successful. Always. I never pitied myself. Even though I had very challenging growing up and never fitting in. And I think my purpose at this age is to really talk about being an inspiration, that ageism doesn't matter anymore. I'm not going to let my dreams and my goals and my purpose fall on the cutting room floor.
That is so good.
So
That is so good. Terry, what I love about your story, I mean, so many things, but really what is like the golden thread is you keep showing up and you keep showing what's possible. Like, we coach and teach about how every challenge could be looked as an opportunity. You live it. So for the women who are listening to this podcast and feel like, you know what, it might be too late for me to do blah, too late to pivot, to speak up, to show up, to start, to heal, to do whatever. What's your encouragement to them?
what are you waiting for? And yes, obviously I have clients that, well, I don't know, let me think about it, and I do that. I did that for the A to B con. I kept hemming and hawing, and I said, you know what, I'm going. The speaker school came up, and I thought, I don't know, maybe not. I actually wrote to Brandon and said, no, I'm going to wait. I have family coming in May. And then I said, you know what? Not going to happen. I wrote him back like 5 minutes later. I'm in. So, life is short. What are we waiting for? If you see something you want, don't wait. Go after it. What if it doesn't work out? It doesn't work out. So what? Other things come along. And, Lena, you've both given me so much inspiration as to how I can round out what I want to talk about. Yeah. Really, to me, all of this is so second nature that I don't really think about it.
Well, you know what? I'm a big believer in personifying everything. Like when I talk to my clients about money, I'm like, make it a person, make it a human. And that kind of changes the perspective. So the reason I bring this up is my favorite quote, and it's not mine, and I don't remember where I saw it, so I would love to give credit. I don't remember, but it went something like this. You cannot feel ready. Ready is not a feeling, it's a decision. Mm-hmm. Terry, if I were to make a person out of that quote, that's you.
Oh, mic drop. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Thank you. And that's so true. And everyone should hear that. We're never ready. Or sometimes we are, but most of the time we're never, I got to get my shoes tied correctly. Or, I got to do whatever, and then I'll be ready. But that's all fear. That's all fear. You either jump in with 2 feet and see what happens, or you make up stories, right? Change your story, change your life.
And truthfully, you said something earlier when you affirmed that you always considered yourself successful. And quite honestly, what is manifestation? Manifestation is intentional thinking. So if you were intentional about believing in yourself and knowing that it is possible, achievable, and available, then universe will deliver. It's like a little waiter. What would you like for your meal? And you just keep placing this amazing orders, and we cannot wait to watch you on stage.
Oh, that would be great. I don't know.
Let's set the intention.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I don't know where it'll come up, but it'll be there. I did a stage presentation back in September. Dylan Smith let me come to his 1%, and he said, if you sponsor, you can be on a stage for 5 minutes. All I cared about was getting on that stage for 5 minutes, and I did, and everyone thought I did a great job. So I know I'm poised to do it, and I'm going to.
I love it. I love it. Oh, Terry, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
So much wisdom, my friend. So much wisdom. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on the Momentum Podcast today.
We hope this episode inspired you to take your next best step toward building your life by design.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and hit that notification bell if you're watching us on YouTube at Momentum Podcast Live.
If you love what you heard, we'd be so grateful if you'd leave us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more amazing people like you and share this content far and wide.
You can also connect with us anytime at contact@momentumpodcast.live for questions, feedback, or just to say hi.
Keep designing the life you want, step by step.
And we'll be here to cheer you on. See you next time on the Momentum Podcast.